procedure. So how the basics of hypothesis testing, and then how to select specific type of hypothesis testing. See, upfront, I will tell you these models will be a little tough because statistics comes here. Statistics comes here. So you have to be doubly attentive to understand, and then you have to keep saying yes or no whenever I ask a question. Otherwise, I will simply assume that you are understanding everything, and then it should not be the other way around. So what is hypothesis testing? Just a minute. So what is hypothesis testing? And then there is something called sampling risk and error. And then null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis, alpha. Some team names are also given alpha, right? We'll discuss about alpha, and then p-value, and then hypothesis test selection. So these are the things. How many of you heard that Maggi was banned in the year 2015? Are you aware of that? Maggi?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
actually, in 2015, Maggi was banned because the lead content was found to be higher, is found to be on the higher side. There are food safety regulations, guidelines, and lead content was found to be higher. And so Maggi was banned. Because of the ban, 38,000 tons of the Maggi packet was burnt in cement factories across 11 cement factories in the country. 38,000 tons of Maggi packet. Maggi, in fact, lost 80% of their market share because of this. Now tell me, to burn 38,000 tons of the Maggi packet, what is that, helped them to conclude the lead content is more than the prescribed value in all the 38,000 tons? Do you think they have checked each and every packet?
No, sir. Sample.
They have taken sample only. So you take a sample, study the sample, and judge on the entire population. Take a sample, study the sample, judge on the population. Your decision can be perfectly all right if you care properly on your sampling. You take the sample correctly. Your sample should truly represent the population, right? If you take samples wrongly, like how we did the GEMS experiment, then Maggi, the decision may go wrong. If you don't want your decision to go wrong, take care of your sampling procedure. And then I've taken a sample, I studied the sample and judged on the population. Studying the sample means what? I study the lead content, right? I test the Maggi packet in a laboratory and I calculate the lead content. Maybe 10 to 20 packets I might have studied, 10 to 20 packets. So I will have 10 to 20 readings. When I have 10 to 20 readings or 100 readings, what will I do? I will calculate average. I will calculate standard deviation. Will you be able to judge on the population with the help of average and standard deviation? Possible. Average plus 3 sigma, average minus 3 sigma will cover 99.73% of the population. So the population of 38,000 tons of the Maggi packet was judged just by studying 10 to 20 Maggi packets. The sample is collected in such a way that the sample can speak about the products in the market. That is why we have taught you the sampling techniques. That is why we have taught you average. We have taught you standard deviation. We have taught you normal distribution. Same way, whenever you take a sample and judge on the population, your approach is called inferential statistics. If you conduct an inferential statistics study, right, to validate a statement, that is called hypothesis testing, right? So hypothesis testing is a decision-making procedure in which a claim about a population is tested for its trueness using sample data, right? So decision-making procedure, a claim about a population is tested for its trueness. For example, through brainstorming, through cause and effect diagram, through YY analysis, through expert opinion, you might, many people will tell many things, but you're responsible for the decision. Somebody says, sir, pouring temperature will affect the casting quality. So increase the pouring temperature. Can you go and quickly increase the pouring temperature? Because the expert have told you. When the expert says that is only probable, still it is not the root cause. Clear? When experts are telling, probably his statement will be correct. Am I right or not? But when you want to be doubly sure, you have to do an hypothesis testing. Whatever experts are telling, that is called hypothesis. Now, second statement. Can somebody read the second statement? Statement about the pouring. Please read it out.
Pouring temperature affects casting quality, sorting time affects
No, only
time
second statement alone. Pouring temperature affects casting
affects
quality. All of you know casting, right? You melt metal, pour it in the die, and then take out the product. That is called casting. The temperature with which you pour is very, very important. You pour it at higher temperature, quality is different. You pour it at a lower temperature, quality is different. But pour it at an optimum temperature, quality is at its best. What is your experts are saying? Pouring temperature can affect casting quality. So you have a doubt. Oh, pouring temperature is going up and down. As a result, my casting quality is also going up and down. Now I wanted to verify this. I wanted to verify. Experts have told me, but now I wanted to verify for myself. That procedure is hypothesis testing. I will purposely change the temperature and monitor the quality and then see and get convinced for myself. I keep on increasing the temperature. My casting quality is going down. I mean, blowholes are increasing. I keep on increasing the temperature, blowholes are increasing. Or surface finish is going down. Something is going wrong. So that means temperature is real cause. I have to keep an eye. I have to have a system by which temperature will not be allowed to change at all. Temperature will be always at the set value. As a result, my casting finish will be always at the best. Blowholes will not be there and my casting will be at its best. How can I do it? The procedure is called hypothesis testing. So claims have to be validated. Then only changes have to be done. If you are not able to validate the claim, simply drop the claim. Whether it is given by an expert or given by your boss, you should be able to safely ignore the statement. Right. And now there are two types of statement, always possible. One is what everybody believes already. And other statement is your new finding. Your new finding is called alternate hypothesis. What everybody believes is called null hypothesis. What everybody believes is called null hypothesis, and your new finding is called alternate hypothesis. So null hypothesis is the initial claim specified using common knowledge. Common knowledge is everybody believes it. And null hypothesis is statements of innocence. Mathematically, it is statement of no change. Mathematically, it is statement of no difference. For example, imagine you have two machines, machine number 1 and machine number 2. Same make, same time purchased, used for same purpose. So the output that the machines produce, you are concerned about the surface finish. You are concerned about the surface finish. What everyone in the company believes so far, both the machine gives same surface finish. Am I right? When you have two machines, same make, purchased at the same time, and you are using it for the same purpose, what everybody believes is both the machines give same surface finish. Surface finish produced by machine number 1 is equal to surface finish produced by machine number 2. But now you have understood that machine 2 got deteriorated. So the surface finish produced by machine 2 is now gone down. Now what is this statement? You only deducted it, right? You only deducted. Now that statement is called alternate hypothesis. Now tell me which one you need to prove. You wanted to prove the null statement or alternate statement?
Alternate.
Alternate statement.
The statement which we wanted to prove is the alternate hypothesis. This is sometimes called research hypothesis. Only you only know about it. Everybody will believe that, hey, both machines are same here. But now by doing a study, you understood that machine 2 is no more producing the specified surface finish. So some changes are required for machine 2. Maybe some additional maintenance is required to make it produce the required spec. So this procedure is called, the procedure of studying. The statement is called hypothesis testing. Now, there are two statements. Always null hypothesis you will find equal to symbol. Equal to symbol should compulsorily there in your null hypothesis. Inequality symbol or greater than, less than symbol should compulsorily be there in alternate hypothesis. Do you understand? Now, a cooking oil manufacturer claims that saturated fat is 15%. Imagine you are a cooking oil manufacturing company, and in your cooking oil bottle, you mentioned that saturated fat is 15%. Now tell me what is null hypothesis here?
Saturated fat 15.
Very good. Saturated fat is equal to 15%. When you put equal to symbol, that is called the null hypothesis. This is what your company believes. Am I right? Your company believes, produces millions of cooking oil bottles, packs it, print it on the cooking oil bottle and gives it. Same thing like Maggi. Maggi also said lead content is only this, but after study somebody understood that it is more. So what your company believes, that is null. So saturated fat equal to 15%. When you say saturated fat equal to, do you see a equal to symbol here? So this is null
Yes, sir.
hypothesis. But when I say not equal to, that is called alternate hypothesis. When I say not equal to, that is called a two-tailed study. Because more than 15 also unacceptable, less than 15 also unacceptable. What is acceptable is close to 15 only acceptable. Above 15 unacceptable, below 15 unacceptable. Both side can spoil your customer experience. So the study is two-tailed. Do you understand what is two-tailed study and one-tailed study? Your green belt exam, is it a one-tailed study or a two-tailed study?
One tail.
One-tailed.
It's-
Only when you score less than 60,
Above-
you will be failed. But above 60, even if you score 100, still you are okay. Though the pass mark is 60, you go 90, 95, 98, 100 also, still it is okay. That is one-tailed. So you understand what is one-tailed and two-tailed. If you are studying the right side, then it is right-tailed. If you are studying the left side, then it is left-tailed. Now, cooking oil, saturated fat content. What type of data it is? Saturated fat content. Is it continuous data or discrete data? Tell me.
Discrete, sir.
Have you studied the type of
Continuous,
data
sir.
in measure phase?
Continuous, sir.
What is continuous data? When do we say a data is continuous?
It was measured, sir.
Measurable data or continuous. My height can be measured or not?
Yes, sir, by centimeters.
Yes, sir.
My height is measurable, so continuous. Your weight is measurable, so continuous. The duration of the song you measured it, so that's continuous. How many people are there in the meeting? Can somebody tell me? Or how many are on the video right now?
2 people, sir.
Is it 2?
By
I could see
count of
3.
3.
Yeah, 3 people. And now the number 3, is it a continuous data or discrete data?
Discrete data, sir.
Countable data are discrete, measurable data are continuous. For measurable data, you can calculate average. For countable data, you can calculate proportion. Out of 19 people, only 3 are on the video. 3 out of 19. Is it an average or a proportion?
Proportion.
Proportion. So there is a difference between average and proportion. My height is 5.5 feet. Suresh height is 5.75. And Padmaja madam's height is 5.25. Now what is the average height? 5.5. Clear? So for measurable data, you can always calculate average. For countable data, you can always calculate proportion. You can test continuous data, or otherwise you can test your mean, or you can test your proportion. There are 2 types of testing you are going to study. One is test of mean, another one is test of proportion. Now, this saturated fat is continuous data. So this is a test of mean or test of proportion?
Mean, sir.
Very good. Test of mean. And now imagine you are a quality, or you are a food inspector. You are a food inspector and you are checking the company's cooking oil. You are checking the company's cooking oil. How the food inspector checked the Maggi, same way you are checking the cooking oil. For what? For the fat content. Now tell me, will you have the information about what is happening inside the company? Will you take sample from the market, or you will take sample inside the company?
From the market, sir.
From the market, because you are an outsider. Without reason, you can't go inside the company and you can't do everything. So right now, you are able to collect sample only from the market. That means population is unknown to you. Am I right? What is population? What the company produces is population. But you can take sample only from the market, and so population is unknown to you. But you want to judge on the population. You want to understand whether the company is maintaining the saturated fat or not. Whenever your population is unknown, your data is continuous, your test is on the mean, your study is called one sample t-test. Clear? The study is called what? One sample t-test. Why do I call it one sample? Because I have taken sample from the market. One sample is studied and my judgment is on the population. That is called one sample t-test. But when the population becomes known population, for example, I am the head of the quality in the company, the overall head of the quality in the company. Do you think I will have access to all the data available in the company?
Yes.
I am here in the company last 20 years. All last 20 years data is available with me. I can calculate average. I have the mean, population mean. I have the population standard deviation. Some information is available with me. What my company is doing last 20 years. That means population is known population. When population is known, my test is called one sample Z test. When population is unknown, my test is called one sample T test. Do you all understand the difference? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now somebody tell me, Maggi case is a Z test or a T test?
T-test.
Very good, T test.
T-test.
Because you are a food inspector, you are outside the company, you took sample from the market, population is unknown. Population is unknown means standard deviation is not known. What is only known is lead content is this much. Lead content is this much. Only the standard is known, but standard deviation of the population is not known. That's why we classify the population as unknown population. And now in the same Maggi case, what is the data that food inspector collected? Lead content. Lead content is a continuous data or discrete data?
Discrete data.
Continuous, sir.
Continuous, sir.
Continuous data. Lead content is measurable.
Percentage. Yeah.
Send your sample to the lab. There are equipments which will measure and give you the reading. Continuous data will always have decimals in it. Just to quickly grasp, I'm giving this shortcut definition. We'll have decimals. Whole numbers, discrete data. So lead content is continuous data. And always when you use continuous data, you can calculate mean. Average can be calculated and that average will be compared against the standard. So here, now you understand when to conduct one sample Z test and one sample T test. Now imagine in your company,